Tuesday, June 13th, regular meeting of the Dayton City Council. Stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members mic up. And need a motion and a second for the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay,
There's
Scott. Matt.
Does that
Any
include the change?
Sorry, yeah.
Yep.
That's
Agenda
So we're
as amended.
switching item D. We approved it last meeting, and my mistake, it should have been approval of a temporary liquor license and a gambling license for St. John the Baptist for August 20th? Question mark? I sent you an email.
Yep.
An email. Yeah.
how far ahead? I forgot the
You
liquor
need at least a
license.
30-day lead time to.
30, yep. Okay. I was trying to remember if it was 30 or 60, but, so that's the only change?
yes.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 4-0. Consent, need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
Okay, discussion on consent.
Do you?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at my notes here because I did send most of my questions to Zach ahead of time because they were simple things for him to answer, and so I need to see what's left here. I do have a question around in this this round of payments. There were quite a large number of landscape escrow refunds, and I know in the development agreements we put language in there about about checking on that stuff and that there's a 2-year warranty and we hold some money back to make sure that if things are replaced that then they're warranted for another 2 years. And I'm wondering, Marty, do we physically go out and look at those things, or how do we verify that should be refunded?
I go out to every home and do a CO inspection before we release the CO. Unless it's in the winter time, then that gets a winter CO. And then I go out again to check before the escrow is released as well. So I do every home, and we check for trees, sod, driveways, that the curb stop and all those things are in. So it is a actual physical check of those things.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Because that was one of my things too. So, because there's parts, for example, like, on River Hills that back up to the park walkway that the builder was supposed to sod and never did. And it looks like a jumble of weeds. So my question is that was on mine. Are we sure the builder has done everything they're supposed to on these, and that no street lights were left out, nothing crazy wasn't taken care of, that everything is good with these before we pay them out?
I will work with engineering. They will have a punch list of all the outstanding items. So before any of those letter of credit or any of that stuff, we will go through and double check that everything is done that needs to be in place.
So your question is a separate bucket of money?
Yes. Okay.
So the part that we are releasing is the homeowners specifically for their landscape.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I think that's the only question that I didn't have answered already, so I'm good.
I had one item. On page 10, there's a charge for $1,375 for beaver removal. Did we really pay $1,400 to have someone remove a beaver?
It was more than one beaver. It's 6 beavers.
Okay. Hey, Scott, what's a trapping permit cost these days?
Well, not this time of year.
Is that down on 170? Where was that at?
That was on South Diamond Lake Road. It was blocking the culvert going underneath the road. There was a family of them moved in there. So we contacted a few guys, and this guy was willing to come out and do it. And
I'm glad it wasn't just one.
no,
All right.
it was a number of them.
And Marty, the park doesn't get involved in that?
No, that's a city deal.
Really? I just sat there with 12 gauge,
why I looked to use. There had to be a cheaper way to do it than that. That's all I had.
Did you have anything?
No. Just
Okay. Any more discussion on consent? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 4-0. Open forum. Is anybody here for open forum? Open forum is limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. Anybody here for open forum? Anybody online for open forum? Okay. Staff, consultant, council updates. Zach.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I have just 2 quick updates tonight. One is to let everybody know that we are closed next Monday, June 19th, to observe the Juneteenth holiday. City Hall will not be open and the doors will be locked, so if you come to City Hall, we will not be here. Second one is Marty and I met last week at the end of the week with District 11, the COO of District 11, basically, and they're looking to add more crosswalks to South Diamond Lake Road. Near the school for more safe crossings for students to be able to cross South Diamond Lake Road. Is there any opposition to have us continue to work with them to figure out a safe crossing for traffic across South Diamond Lake Road? Obviously, they'd be specific to probably heavier during school district times as they're operating, but still more crosswalks across the roadway.
Well, how many do we have
There's 2
now?
now, right?
One currently that's marked.
Right.
And then we have one that is at the end of Zachary Lane there that is unmarked, but there is a sidewalk that leads out to it. So
Oh,
we'd have to provide like a
Yeah, I don't-
striping, but.
you all good with that?
Is there 2 striped ones?
There's 2 stroke ones just down here. One's got the illuminated.
Oh, one's got the light one.
Which has only got signage.
Got it, okay. Yeah, so, okay, sounds good. That's all I got. Thank you.
Amy?
So we've had multiple complaints lately about the door-to-door sales or soliciting permits that we issue. Specifically, some complaints to permitted solicitors. And so I think we will, as soon as we get the RFPs back, we're currently out for an RFP for our city attorney. Once we find out who that is, I will work with them to maybe update the ordinance or have some changes in there for cost or application process to avoid some of the complaints.
What are the complaints centered around? Or are they all over the place?
They're all over the place, so people just don't enjoy necessarily random people coming to the door trying to sell things.
But how's a permit?
Right, the ones that are permitted,
I mean, how are we going
Have
to
been-
reword a permit to fix that?
how what?
How would we reword a permit to fix that?
So we can have them provide certain background checks, require them to come in person to be able to take a picture to issue a license that's specific to them instead of just being able to do it through the mail. We have a lot of out-of-state applicants and
Oh, I see.
maybe less care for the area.
Make it a little more intent driven.
Right.
Okay, I
So a
get
little more steps to go through and kind of weed out the not so credited
Chaff, yep.
businesses.
Yep.
Do we have a way for if someone comes to the door, has a policy, has the solicitor's permit, and they're causing issues that they can is to contact you the best way to come tell the city?
You want to contact the police department?
Police department? Okay.
Because they'll actually create a police report, and if we get so many complaints
Yeah.
about a specific company, we wouldn't reissue a license.
Okay.
Or we could possibly revoke, depending on how long their license is for.
Okay.
I am looking into an election software that I'll end up purchasing. It's called Modus. It's going to make scheduling and training and all sorts of fun election-related things easier. And then as a reminder, we have park and planning openings currently. This is open until the 20th, so that's coming up here. So anyone interested, please get those applications in, because we do have openings, and only one, as of right now, has reapplied.
So do we have term limits on committees?
No.
No,
No.
and that's all I have for update.
Marty?
Mayor and Council, I have a couple of updates tonight. Wellhead water treatment, MDH is still reviewing that document. They've passed a couple of preliminary comments back to Black and Veatch, who are addressing those in the plan set. The MDH review is scheduled to be done by the end of this week. And I'm hoping to have the revised plan set and then present to the council for bid on 6/27, so we can get that project out to bid. We're a couple of weeks behind schedule at this time, but we can make that up in the review period between getting the bids back and awarding the bids. The Hennepin County Culvert and Stabilization Project on Dayton River Road, work is anticipated to be completed on that by July the 4th. So the road should be, the week of July the 4th, the road should be open there. Still be working, stabilizing some of the culverts and those other things, but the road itself will be open. Water usage, currently we are pumping a little over 1 million gallons a day. Just as a comparison, in the winter months, we average approximately 250,000 gallons a day. Hayden Hills, the pickleball courts have been painted yesterday. They will need to cure for a week, and then we can get the nets set up on there. The part-time maintenance technician will be posting that position this week. It's taken me a little time to get that together because I needed to do a job description for that position. It's not just going to be a mowing position. It's going to have other responsibilities. The dust control was applied last week. Planters, we have the planters at Public Works. We're sorting out the plaques for those. Our volunteer who is going to help us with planting those things and maintaining those is away for a couple of weeks. So when she gets back, we can get the supplies and plants and get those out. That's all I have.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Just an update on applicants for the fire department. We started off with 12 applicants. We had 2 no contact after the application, 2 no-show for the agility test that we had a couple weeks ago. 3 dropped out after the agility test, and we conducted interviews last night, and we're moving 5 forward to the psychological exam. So you can see how we can move down pretty quickly from 12 down to 5. Some maintenance issues. I bring them up because they're, well, one of them is very significant. Engine 12 has an oil leak. That's being looked at. Utility 21 has no AC, so we're working on that. And engine 21, unfortunately, still has not come back from Boyer. They put in an electronic control module. That did not fix the problem. That was about $7,000. Boyer has agreed to eat that cost, being that that didn't fix the problem. So right now we're looking at possibly having to rebuild that motor to the tune of about $15,000 to $20,000. Not sure. I'll have more information tomorrow on that. On a good note, recruits complete Fire 2 next Wednesday. Again, we still maintain 7 of the 8 that we started with. And then I'd like to invite all of council, if you're available, on Wednesday, July 12th at Sundance Entertainment. And we're doing a brief graduation event for to celebrate their accomplishments at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 12th.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple updates. Officers on June 1st attended Hennepin County Technical College, where they went through shoot, no shoot simulation training in the morning, and then in the afternoon did role playing with some actors and some other local PDs to get real life simulation training. We are planning on doing one in the fall that we're going to invite the full council to come and do the shoot, no shoot simulation. So once I get a date for it, I'll definitely let you know. Tomorrow night we're doing Pizza with a Cop for the 3 families that won it at the open house.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have any updates tonight.
Jason?
I don't either.
I don't think I do either.
I have just a reminder to make to the council. And this was one of the commission members asked me about this. we have to remember that the commissions of this city are independent bodies from us and are therefore going to provide recommendations occasionally that we don't agree with. And we need to respect their opinions and allow them their space to do that. And that's all I have. Dave?
Couple quick things. I saw that there's a seminar coming up on federal grants workshop on June 26th by the Transportation Alliance. Margaret Donahoe, we get email from her a lot.
Okay.
And it looks like it's at the Landscape Arboretum just for the day. The intent of the training is to help us understand the federal grants that have become available along with the state money that has recently been passed that's somewhat discretionary in nature for transportation things. I'm not sure if I can go or not, but I hope somebody does.
I'll take a look and see. Yep.
Yeah, so, and let me know if, maybe Zach, if you're going, then maybe I wouldn't, but I'll try to go if nobody else can.
Yeah, I'll take a look at my schedule and see if we can figure that out. Yep.
All right. And then, otherwise, we had some discussion around, swapping some items on the CIP at our last meeting, and subsequent to that meeting, Zach sent out our policy around that, which is largely silent about what we can do and what we should do is in terms of changing items that we are on the list that we no longer want and substituting something different. So I've asked that we work on that policy so that we have a procedure related to changes, because they're inevitably going to come up, and I think that we should have some clear language about how we go about doing that. So hoping that we can move forward with updating that policy, or at least the procedure that goes with it. And I think that was all I had.
Jason, I'm curious, did we ever get an update on the problem intersections in the city and kind of ranking those and what that looks like?
Still in process.
Okay.
But,
How about a crosswalk policy?
we're preparing a proposal right now to put one together. And we have pulled together some example ones that we can share with that proposal.
Okay, perfect. And then any update on the community development director posting, Zach?
Yep, so that did close last Tuesday. We had 8 applicants. We are evaluating, Amy and I are evaluating resumes and applications. We did that today, and we will be contacting those individuals, I think tomorrow. Okay, I wasn't sure if we got to it today or not. We'll contact them tomorrow, and then we'll schedule interviews. The process will be, I think it's the goal is to have it the last week of June for interviews, and then hopefully either have it on the July 11th meeting for approval for the city council, so that we can get them in here by the end of July, hopefully. And if not, they'll be on the July 25th meeting. But the goal is to have them on the July 11th meeting with the applicant that we move forward.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, let's get to new business. Item K.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Item K is the transportation plan amendment. So a little bit of background on the history we've gone through so far. So council directed staff to evaluate the previous transportation plan on the studies to create a stronger north-south connection on the transportation plan. The summary of the research and background was provided to council on February 28th, where council directed staff to proceed with option number 2. Staff proceeded to meet with Hennepin County and Metropolitan Council staff with option number 2, and staff had no objections to the change. Council reviewed the proposed comprehensive plan amendment on April 11th. We then proceeded with an open house, which was held on May 8th and heavily attended. The Planning Commission did review this and held the public hearing for it on June 1st and voted to recommend approval of it with a 3-to-1 vote. So just to go through again on the comprehensive plan and the transportation plan, because there are some new, just slightly altered graphics in here. So the comprehensive plan is a long-range planning document to guide the future of Dayton and serves as the guideline that we use for many of our decision-making areas, including land use, park, public facilities, streets, trails, things like that. The current transportation plan as it sits today has the future Dayton Parkway would be a diagonal road connecting to 129th, creating that northeast to the southwest connection. Fernbrook Lane would move in a northwest direction from the south to Zanzibar. The existing Fernbrook Lane would remain as a local street connection to provide access for the existing homes there. The current plan makes it difficult to have that straight north-south connection in the city and would require to fully fund construction of the new Fernbrook Lane before the county would accept jurisdiction over it. The amendment is to show it in this alignment on the screen. Dayton Parkway would shift to a north-south alignment connecting in with Zanzibar. Fernbrook Lane would still remain in its current location as a county road, not a city road. A new 121st Avenue would be constructed to connect with Zanzibar, so that's that connection east-west. This would allow for a stronger north-south connection in the city, align proposed roadways to the existing grid, and then keep improvements of Fernbrook Lane a county responsibility versus a city responsibility. So here's the comparison between the two maps. You can see between 125th and 117th is kind of the area that changes the most, with it being less of an X and then more of the east-west, north-south connections. So one of the updated maps since the packet, it's really hard to see since it's not a very big area, but it just shows the Dayton Parkway change. So there's a dashed line shown on Dayton Parkway north of County Road 81. And that's just been more refined since that has begun construction with the Cubes project. So it's just been updated since then. Same thing with figure 8, this time on the Fernbrook. It just changes the very bottom section of Fernbrook to show that it is a future number of lanes of 4 instead of 2, as anticipated for the entire length of Fernbrook. So the next steps for the transportation plan amendment. It's a policy change whenever the comp plan has changed. This allows the city to plan for street improvements. Nothing is fully designed at this point, and wouldn't be designed until the properties adjacent to it would develop. So this would we would acquire right away and construct the street sections with development, which would take place far in the future, as most of this area is staged in the 2030 through 2050, mostly 2040 and 2050 areas. This allows the city to adjust the street alignment to avoid wetlands and natural features when the roadways, when the areas develop and when they would be constructed. And there's no plans to do any land acquisition or anything related to eminent domain with this project. This is all planning for the future and would happen when development occurs, if the landowners choose to sell at that time. So we're just planning for the future and having this plan in place. So the requested action tonight is to move to adopt Resolution 22-2023, approving the transportation plan amendment. To note, this is a supermajority vote required for any amendments to the comprehensive plan, which is a 4/5 vote. Because there are only 4 members here tonight, that's a full vote, 4-4. 3/4 is not a supermajority. So we do need a full vote for that. So if approved, staff would then submit to the Metropolitan Council for, this is an administrative review because it's minor in the terms of the entire comprehensive plan. So it is a 30-day review period, and once the review period is complete, then we could then implement a change. So that's everything with that. If there's any questions for staff at this time.
One question I would have, Kevin, if you can go back to page 9. The way this is written, I don't know if I can get that.
I don't know which page it was, but I mean this figure or?
I'd say
one more.
7.
1 more.
6?
No, 9.
You're going the wrong way?
Page 9.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were talking about that.
This doesn't necessarily mean that this will connect to Fernbrook, correct? Is that how we're
It
going
means there's
to?
an anticipated connection east-west roughly in that area. It's, it's a fat marker, so that's what I'm saying. When it goes forward, we'll move it to avoid natural features and things like that, depending on
I believe we
where
talked
everything
about possibly stopping it at the power line and then making another north-south. Not that we needed to have that, but I just don't want to go in with the idea that it is definitely going to come all the way to Fernbrook.
Right now, it's shown that we will connect to Fernbrook with that, but the north-south isn't shown because it's not, at this time, we're not planning to have a major roadway there. It could still come in as a local roadway, And then there will be local roadways, I mean, more than just we show on here, but these are the major collector roadways that we're showing now. And we are anticipating that that connection from the Dayton Parkway / Zanzibar connection will connect all the way over to Fernbrook.
That's the plan, but we also had an X on the plan.
Right.
That's gone.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to look at that.
It's just a little misleading because
Well-
that's a high-cost road to go through all that
It would
swamp.
be, yeah.
Right, and that's the part with when development comes in, and we'll have to make it work with the natural features. And if it is infeasible at that point, this is a very high-level review, so we don't
Right.
do testing of soils and wetlands and things like that. So this may need to jog well north or well south to miss wetland features. Same things with tree stands and other natural features that you'd want to preserve with construction of roadways.
Or if we get into it, just stop. If it gets
Or-
too expensive
Right,
to
if
go all the way
it's-
through, because
if
there's a
it's-
giant swamp there. We might just
if
say, you
it's,
know what? It's not worth the money. We're just going to stop it here. And
Right.
If it's the same cost to construct a quarter mile there as it is to construct a normal 1 mile segment, that becomes infeasible, and that is when we would then determine that that wouldn't be feasible for the city.
Just so everyone understands that
Right,
it's not
yeah.
written in stone.
it's kind of like at the planning commission meeting, 129th going through came up. And I think when
Right.
we had our work session, we all talked about that. However, that's in 2050 land, and we have to redo the whole comp plan again in 2 years. So I think in 2-3 years, when everything gets updated, this will shift, in my opinion, I don't want to speak for everyone, in my opinion, this will continue to shift and evolve over the coming years.
Yep.
All right, I need a motion in a second.
Can I ask a question before motion second?
Yeah.
Do we think it's worth waiting since there's only 4 of us here, or do you think we just move forward with it, seeing as we need a super majority vote?
Well, we could always re-vote,
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
although there's rules around that, but yeah.
So I can go through a procedural question if that helps. If you make a motion in a second and you vote and the vote isn't a supermajority, the motion and the second just
Dies.
fail. It doesn't say it. So then if you need to
Right.
either table until the Councilmember Henderson is here, that's an option, or if you would retake a vote. Since when it fails, you can still bring forward as long as it's, it has to have some type of tweak to the motion. You can't re-vote on the same motion.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Don't think I agree with that if it's one of the, well, but it doesn't matter. We can, yeah, well, at least tweak it. Okay, need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of passing resolution 22, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 4-0. All right. Item L.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm here to present the 2024 budget for City Hall. I will also do the Activity Center as well. I'll get rid of this little screen because it's driving me crazy. I do want to make sure that all the council member knows that these requests are the full asks of everyone in City Hall at this point. We did not amend anything for any of the departments that you'll hear budget presentations for, both today and at the next council meeting, so that we will have the full asks from all of the departments, and then we can discuss and whittle down or approve or whatever else at this point. So just want to make sure that everyone is aware when you see numbers, it's not daunting to everybody.
Yeah. Can you back up one?
Yep.
You gonna update that when Dave's deck is done? Just asking.
I don't know, we'll have to maybe, because it'll look different than it does today.
All right, sorry.
I'm still waiting for his copyright
Oh.
requirements. All right, so this is this City Hall organizational chart for 2024 proposed. City Hall is not looking for any new positions in 2024. It is not changing from what it is as of today. However, we are having some internal conversations on the best use of the dollars for the activity center position, and we will come back with those once we have had those conversations. Marty, Amy, and myself, I think, have some time scheduled out. I don't know if it's the rest of this week or early next week that we had some conversations scheduled out. I think it's probably later this week to have the conversation of what we're going to do with that position. But currently, it's just still planned as a community development director position, which we're moving forward with, and the assistant city administrator, city clerk. And then the positions below associate planner 1 and 2, and then the accountant, the full-time admin assistant, and then the utility billing clerk and the accounting technician. So no changes at all from what we have today in City Hall.
forgot that I put all these fancy things in here last year. Mission and strategic initiatives. I did a good job, obviously. Our mission is still to promote a thriving community and to provide residents with a safe and pleasant place to live while preserving our rural character and creating connections to our natural resources. Those strategic initiatives narrow down to building quality infrastructure, planning ahead to manage thoughtful development, preserving our rural character, and creating a sought-after community. Some 2022 accomplishments. It feels like it was forever ago. Amy and I went through this morning, and it feels like sometimes 2022 was forever ago. So I did my best to put these into format of what the goals were. So the goals are on the left and the actions are on the right. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but the main ones are: we secured funding and began engineering for design of wellhead treatment number 1 at wellhouse number 4. And then we also approved well number 5. Both of those projects are starting and moving through the process at this point. And we also got that additional $1.75 million from the state through this budget session in 2023, so it's a slight update. Develop comprehensive transportation plan. We did construct West French Lake Road that is paved now. That looks fantastic. I drove it the other day. It looks great that it's done, or most of it's done. I think there's a small little portion that needs to be paved still yet, but getting that done. And then construction to upgrade County Road 81 and Dayton Parkway's intersection. I saw that was paved as well. It looks fantastic. Can't wait for the parkway to be through, so that should look wonderful. And then we approved the process to complete a pavement management study. I know that Stantec is working through that process, and we will present that once we have all the findings for that pavement management study. I know all the data has been taken for that, so we did move forward with that process. Prepare a plan for public facilities needs to meet city's growth. So the city's growth has emphasized the fact that we need a full-time fire chief, so we did hire one of those in 2022. And we also hired a full-time accounting technician. During 2022. We revamped the CIP to construct a new city hall in the future, which we talked about at the last CIP at the end of last year. Instead of placing money into this aging facility, we decided to save the money and put it into a facility in the future. Again, I think that's 2028 is the year, so not anytime, in the near future, but it is in the future. And then fire station improvements based on the fire needs assessment. We did more of those that we had already approved for in 2021. We finally did those in 2022. And then also did some in 2023. Variety of housing options. We did Balsam Lane Apartments 2 on Balsam Lane. Hayden Hills, Donahue Dells, LC Stevens Park. Second phases were done. And then a Pineview Trail north of South Diamond Lake Road. We finally got the thing from stop asking for a password every 5 seconds. So that's good to have that little beacon done so that the people don't have to get bugged by that. More use of the city Facebook pages, so we did implement a police and fire Facebook page in 2022, and police also have an Instagram page, which I hear they're pretty proud about, so please go follow them on Instagram. The chiefs are proud of that one too, I think. And then we also have more frequent updates to the city website completed. We really try to focus on having the website be the one-stop shop for our residents. Either which way, I know what it is. Construction of Quick Trip on County Road 81, and the second building of Graco is what it says behind that red and green thing. Police and fire attended several trainings. They keep up on those things, and we did some new additions to Ione Gardens, Brayburn Trails, Sundance Greens, and RiverWalk development, which you can't see on the screen. 2022 accomplishments as well. We also had quite a few things of planning. The main ones are 14 text amendments or zoning code updates that we did. 13 of those were zoning code updates throughout the year. And then we also had 11 final plats, like I mentioned, final additions, and so on and so forth. And we finalized the comprehensive plan in 2022 and have already amended it in 2023. So, congrats. Also in 2022, we issued 400 building permits for new family homes. We increased transparency, which we noted as Facebook pages, Instagram pages, website. Applied for and were awarded the TED-I grant and the IBDPI grant for the 81 intersection and the West French Lake Road project improvements. We completed the 2023 budget, the 2021 audit, and the 2023 long-term plan. With staff turnover, we reevaluated our needs and kind of repurposed dollars within City Hall specifically to become more effective with dollars to be able to provide the best service to residents. We did that during 2022. And then we have had a 133% increase in 5 years from utility bills. So that means that they have doubled and a little more in the last 5 years, which isn't surprising with the number of building permits we have pulled in the last number of years. But we have sitting at today 2,844 utility billing accounts that one person is handling. So
She's doing a fantastic job, and we do those bi-monthly. 2023 projects updates that I have. I'm sure Marty has more of these, but doing the interchange landscaping, I know that Marty went down there and looked at that. I think it was last week, and saw the amount of landscaping that he had to do. I can't wait for him to be mulching all the time. Finalized Hayden Hills, Donahue Dells, S.C. Stevens park improvements in 2023 this year. So I started well drilling for well number 5. Finalizing engineering for the wellhead treatment plant. Bids are going to be on, I think, the next meeting is the plan, correct? Approve the process to go for bid. So that'll be approved in July. Budget and long-term plans, and then paved West French Lake Road, which I did mention earlier. We explored land acquisition for fire station. We were unsuccessful in our exploration of land acquisition, and we are still working on that process at this point today. We have implemented or working on an app for better communication with residents. We have new industrial growth that we have down in the southwest corner of Dayton. We hired some staff, city administrator, a county technician, and 2 associate planners. Working on the community development director position, which I mentioned earlier in the meeting, looking for a July meeting, and then economic development efforts. We continue to have lots of calls on commercial and industrial developments in either the southwest corner of the city. We still are underneath a moratorium in the center of our city for any development, so that goes until the middle of September, so we haven't had any calls on that area. However, we continue to field lots of calls. I know Kevin's emails and phone are always busy with calls about proposed developments. Not a lot coming through specifically, but there should be some things coming forward here soon that are actually coming to fruition. 2024 changes, so this is the main part that we're looking at. We analyzed revenues, or I analyzed revenues over the last couple weeks and took a look at what we've done historically and where we're at today. We are going to likely budget for less revenues next year. So I've mentioned before, but I'll mention it again. The tax levy number is just a backfill number, and all it does is take all of the other revenues that we get in for the general fund and then reduce all of the expenses. So if there's a difference there, we have to make that difference up with the tax levy. So it is just a back-end number to get our balanced budget, is how we work in the city. We don't expect to gain dollars or lose dollars any one year. We expect to have a balanced budget if everyone or every department head is able to follow their budget and also get the same revenues in that we expect to have them come in at. We expect to have a balanced budget every year and not gain or lose any dollars. We are reducing revenues, and the reason being is because of the building permit activity. We are significantly lower than what we were as of last year at this time, and looking at it, projecting it out over the rest of the year, we are not going to hit our budget number for 2023. We budgeted just over $1.4 million for building permits this year, and right now we sit at $400,000. And that does not have May completely reconciled yet. So, but we're still at $400,000 through April, and that's not fantastic math if we have $1.4 million. Q4 essentially has very, very little activity, so you have to take that into consideration as well. So we are reducing mostly building permit revenue. I think the total reduction is like $250,000 or something like that for building permit revenue in 2024. So it does affect the tax levy. So if we just reduce that one number, we would have to increase taxes by $170,000 just to create a balanced budget if nothing else changed in the entire city, just so that everyone is aware. Again, that tax number is just a back-end number. We have some change in the finance department, which we did mention in 2023. We hired that one additional person. That person's salary and weight and benefits is roughly about $120,000. And that increase in total in finance is $137,000. Again, we have utility billing clerk, we have a accountant, and we have an accounting technician that all go into the finance department area within the city. We had increase in elections because of that presidential primary election happening in 24. We have 3 elections this year. Also, there is legislation that approved, is it 48 days or something, 46 days? We have to be open before the election process, so that has to be, we have to have somebody here ready to go with elections at all times for 46 days, including Sundays and Saturdays, so that it gives people more opportunities to vote, but that does mean that we have to pay more staff to be here as well. So,
State funded then, because it's a state mandate?
Well, there's some possible funding for the
Yeah.
presidential primary, but it's minimal.
I'm going to
It's
go
still
with
cost.
I go with no.
We did reduce $70,000 in inspection services. So there is a slight reduction, like I said, with the building permit revenue. There is some reductions with inspection services that are expected because we don't have to pay Metro West to go out there and do our inspections since they are our contract inspection service. Reduction in planning by $40,000 by not having to pay landform or professional services if we get the correct community development director position in here, which we will not have to rely as much on professional services to help us to be able to provide planning services for the residents. And then in total, we had a bunch of different departments that had smaller, likely 5% increases. And those are just based on costs that we've seen increasing from everything. So about total of 20 grand between those 6: city clerk, IT, building maintenance, assessment services, legal. So about the 6 departments have a total of $20,000 change based on just what we've seen for costs. So nothing crazy from City Hall. Again, pretty status quo, minus the additional person that we hired in 23 that we have to now budget for in 2024. Activity Center. So Florida and the Activity Center. Not a lot of updates because we don't have any updates because the person who did the Activity Center in 22 is no longer with us. So I did just note that we are evaluating this entire position and the department at this time within internally, and there will be some updates from staff once we have internal conversations. In the 2024 budget, I did put the same exact dollars in there as if nothing changed in 23 to 24, just to keep it so that we saw the exact same expense number. If we decide that position goes away or adjusts or whatever else, there will be an adjustment that happens with the budget at this time. So just so that you're aware. Any questions related to City Hall specifically and or the positions that I talked about tonight or any of the numbers you saw? Okay. Obviously, this is the beginning of the budget process. We will still have many more conversations moving forward. This does not touch CIP at all, which we had talked about. It sounds like from what I have heard back from emails, it sounds like we'll do a 5 o'clock start on July 11th, if that works for everybody. If it does not work for you, please let me know. But from what I have heard back from everybody, it sounds like a work session before a meeting is the best because people have those days dedicated for city council business. With July 11th, I'll make sure that department heads are able to be there as well, because if that doesn't work for department heads, it doesn't work for everybody else too. So we will make sure that we have that ready to go for council. Again, that is the first conversation with CIP that we will have as well. So this is a long process and it will take a few months. So don't expect this first thing to be as it all done. So any other questions for me tonight? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Marty. Sounds great. Thank you.
I got nothing like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. Can you find where it is on it?
Oh, yeah.
I need a little bit of a leg up here. Come on.
I got you.
You're not IT, right?
I got
No,
you.
IT. Give me a wrench, I'm fine.
I got you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think there's quite a lot of bleed over from what Zach's just presented to what I've got in here, so please bear with me. This is our mission statement that you've seen several times before, but it still bears repeating. The City of Dayton Public Works Department strives to be a customer service-driven, goal-motivated, action-oriented operation that provides essential public services promptly, efficiently, and effectively. That is what we try to do on a daily basis. Every day we are here. I generally do this every year. It's a Dayton by the numbers. So with the utilities, just some key numbers. We pumped 175,533 gallons of water last year. So far this year, in the 5 months that I've got records for, we have got 51,516,000. Currently, last count, we had 2,044 total meters out there, so that's 2,844 services, 10 lift stations, 491 hydrants, currently 4 wells, soon to be 5, 847 manholes in the street, and 34.6 miles of sewer main. In the parks and trails, we've got 15 parks totaling 137.49 acres. Last count, we had 17.2 existing trail miles and just over 27 miles of existing sidewalks. We have now got just about 5,030 feet of landscape median to maintain, with the interchange, Iron Gardens, Cypress Cove, the entranceway there, Balsam Lane, and Sundance Greens. So those are all ours to maintain now. Streets, we currently, last count, we had 86 miles of asphalt streets, 2.75 miles of gravel. Obviously, that's shrinking pretty much over the last couple of years. Last year, we did 91 tons of asphalt patching. I think that we're going to beat that number significantly this year. 550 tons of salt were put down last winter, and fuel was 14,185 gallons. This is just an inventory of the parks that we currently have. The well comparison chart is a little bit clunky at the moment because the way I've got it set up. But well one, this is the numbers. It shows where we have started to, the lower numbers to the right of each of those sets of bar graphs is where we have got the new wells online. So well 1 and well 3 are running. So you'll see at the end of in August, the last 2 bars are significantly lower, and that will be a corresponding thing in well 4. Same applies here with well 2. Well 4 is online, so we are supplementing that with the well 4 stuff. Well 3, again, it shows you, that we are pumping a lot of water out of well 3. Again, supplementing well 1 in the old village. Well 4, again, it's just starting to show what we're pumping out there. It's significant amounts of water, over 160,000 160 million gallons, sorry. So it's significant. So I tried to combine the numbers by area. So well 1 and 3, I've got the combined numbers for those. So 2022, we're just a little shy of 9 million gallons pumped there. That's the old village area. Not a lot of significant growth there, but we're still seeing an uptick in water usage there. This is well 2 and 4, and you can see the significant jump in 2022. Just over, I think it's 165 million gallons that we pumped for the total of the year there. So you can see the way that it's going. 2023 it's starting off the same way. I'm expecting, it to be similar to 2022, if not a little bit above that. But fortunately, we have the wells in the ground now to be able to accommodate that kind of water usage. This is some hourly department data by quarter. Quarter 1, majority of our time is spent on roads, not surprising because that's when we're out ploughing most. And then a lot of fleet management in the first quarter. That's when we do all of our oil changes and maintenance on all the vehicles. Quarter 2 changes a little bit. We find the parks are starting to come into being there. There's 27% of the time used up on that. Quarter 3, again, parks increases there. A lot more mowing and maintenance and mulching and tree trimming and all that good stuff. So that's kind of quarter 3 is predominantly parks. The one item that one department doesn't change too much is sewer and water. That stays around 23% all year round. In quarter 4 there, last year we did 39%, but we were doing a lot of putting in touch pads and stuff like that, so we were spending a lot of time catching up with that where we weren't able to get our radio readers in. So that's kind of how 22 played out. And this is just total annual hours by department where the majority of time went. 30% of the time was spent in parks, 25% sewer and water, 20% roads, and 10% in fleet management. So you can see parks does take up a big chunk of what we do throughout the year. So far in quarter two, again, first quarter is predominantly roads and fleet management again. Sewer and water is still in there at 20%, but quarter two, the parks is starting to come up 27%, and then the roads is going down. So that's the trend of how we operate. It seems to be pretty standard how that goes. So currently, organization chart, we have 10 full-time operators, including myself and Kelsey, the administrator. We're running with 3 seasonals and 1 part-time currently, which we're looking to replace the other part-time that retired this year. Next year, we're going to stay significantly the same, but I want to add a couple of part-time people to work in parks and streets. It's going to be a flexible role. Just because of the amount of extra work that we're getting with gardening work and all the parks that we're doing with pollinator gardens and all that other stuff with the interchange and the medians and all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a lot more tree management, trimming, and tree replacements as well, I feel, coming up.
What's the difference between part-time and seasonal, Marty?
Part-time can work more hours, so across the year. So we can 27 to 31 hours. But we can employ them 9 months of the year, whereas a seasonal is just in there for the summer mowing season. And seasonals are generally college kids, whereas a part-timer can be a retired person or something like that. That's generally what
Just so that the council's aware that a part-time person has to be paid para, so part of the Public Employees Retirement Association, where a seasonal does not work enough hours and make enough money to be able to be part of para, so they don't have to pay into para, which means we don't have to match the dollars that go into para for the portion. So there is a savings to a seasonal versus a part-time, but that part-time position we do not have to pay benefits for, as in health insurance, dental insurance, all that stuff.
So is it cheaper for us to have 1 full-time and a seasonal, or 2 part-times?
I'd have to do the math on it, depending on what you're gonna, the pay and everything else. I'd have to do the math. I can do the math and figure it out.
So that's the part-time, because you get more labor out of them.
I don't know. I would guess so too, but with the para thing, I don't know.
The other thing is to find the part-time too.
With the new law that passed, like bus drivers can now claim unemployment over the summer too, so it's going to be harder, I think, to find people that we normally pull in for seasonals.
Okay. Just getting to the budget highlights for 2024. I've tried to keep it as similar to last year as possible. There's a couple of highlights in there. Operating supplies, we're noticing a big bump in what we're having to maintain. So our operating supplies budget has gone up significantly to $56,000 to $45,000 last year. And the repair and maintenance is really the bigger item. So far this year, we've got nearly $72,000 in repairs and maintenance. A lot of that is because we've got a bigger fleet, and we've also got an older fleet that we're trying to keep up until we can get new equipment. So that's a significant jump up from last year's budget in there. What else? Professional services, I've got that at $25,000. That is for a specific item. We have got an old diesel tank over at Public Works, the old Public Works place, and there's about 10 barrels of unknown contents over there that we need to... Unknown, yeah. That we need to get removed in a safe way. So I put some money in there to be able to do that.
Does that mean it had diesel, and now it's probably got diesel in it?
What's in there? It could be anything.
And rust?
Yeah, and rusting. So I've had some people look at it, and they said you best treat it as hazardous material, just in case it isn't. But they started, we want to do it before the rust gets through it and it starts leaking out on the ground. So
Fire department training.
Say again?
Fire department training is what he said.
You're welcome.
Oh, 2 birds with one stone?
Yeah. In the Parks Department, it's not too many changes. The part-time employees are included in there. Professional services, I've added some money in there. we're going to be looking at some tree removals and replacements in various locations. There's some failing trees in the parks and stuff that need to be looked at. And a bigger project that I'm thinking about doing is trying to identify a space so we can actually start a tree nursery for the city. It's been out there for a while, but I think we're getting to a space where we need to do that. But the rest of that budget is pretty similar to what we had last year. A quick overview of 22 projects. I think Zach just mentioned all of them.
Sorry.
So parks, we got the improvements to Donahue Dales, Hayden Hills Park developed, Stevens Phase 2 implemented, Rivers Bend, we installed that ADA trail in there last year with the help of Corcoran. The water trail study, we got that completed. We identified some grant funding and got those applications in. Utilities, well 5 test well was completed. Wellhead treatment plant plans documents started for construction in 2023-24. So 2023 projects, parks, we've got to complete the 22 park improvement projects. There's a few things left to do. Complete the pickleball courts, resurface the basketball courts, complete asphalt trails at Elsie's, complete the landscaping and install the North Pedestrian Bridge. A lot of those things have already been taken care of. Water trail project, complete plans and specifications for bidding early 2023, depending on what we get for grants. 2023 park improvement projects, we've identified a couple of areas. Area 21 Neighbourhood Park, which is the Four Corners Park, that is Braeburn 1 and 2 and Sundance Green, and that other full quadrant that hasn't been developed yet, but we want to try and put a plan together of what that might look like. Especially with a lot of people moving in there, we want to be able to build something as part of a master plan and then build the rest of it out as the land becomes accessible. I own Garden Cypress Cove. We're going to be doing some neighbourhood park improvements in that area, some grading, some landscaping, just to improve the overall quality of that park. McNeil Park, we're going to install dugouts in the fall. We've got some money from CDAA and the Twins Foundation to help us with that project. We just approved residing that garage down there at McNeil. Levis Park, we're going to complete the prairie seeding trails, and there's some trees to go in there as well. Utilities, well 5 complete drilling and testing production capacity. Wellhead water treatment bid award and start construction of that wellhead water treatment. Upgrade the sewer and water distribution plans. Extend sanitary connection from RiverWalk development to wellhead treatment site. Water tower, we did the maintenance and repairs there. Old Village pressure tank, that is going to be, the improvements for that will be done in the fall. AMI meter reading and analytics system. We're still pursuing that with a hope to get that in this year. We had to extend the coverage map for that to incorporate a lot more stuff on the other side of the interchange bins. We're getting a lot of interest in that area there. So streets general, we've scanned all the city streets to help us to plan and budget for those projects. We're going to continue with crack sealing and patching program, pour some concrete curb at that Rivers Bend trail crossing that we installed. We can working on building out our GIS database all the time. That's just something that is ongoing. We've started to construct the boneyard at the new public workshop so we can move all the junk from the old one and hide it at the new one. Without the barrels. 2024 goals, park improvement projects, bid and construction for those parks that we identified that we're designing this year. Hopefully water trail project bid and start construction on phase 1, partnering with the National Park Service, Three Rivers Park District and DNR, and plan for a tree nursery like I just mentioned. And then utilities, complete construction of wellhead treatment facility and have well 5 and well 4 connected and in service by fall.
Marty,
So this tree nursery's been kind of hanging around for years. Why do we not just talk to, I mean, we have a tree nursery right in town. Why don't we just talk to them and say, hey, we'd rather, find some way to do it cheaper. I find it hard to believe that we're going to be able to.
I can say, I have had conversations
Have you?
with them
Okay.
in the past, so I mean I can continue with those conversations.
Just,
I feel like we're starting to get a lot of dead trees, and I think that at some stage it would pay us to do that, to just have 2-inch trees. But I mean,
I just have a hard time believing we'll be able to produce trees cheaper than they can.
it's certainly something that I will continue to have that conversation with those guys.
You might have to do what they want. They need their ground for their trees that they're selling, and they just don't have the room to put it. I don't
Or
know.
some sort of syncope, something. Yeah.
That's all I have for you. Any questions?
No questions? All right.
All right.
I've got one for you, to Zach, but in general, can we get these as part of the council packet when you send to us so we can look at them in advance?
It'll come as soon as they're done with it.
Correct. Yep. As soon as I'm done with it, we'll send it over to you, which was today at about 4 o'clock. So.
Yeah.
We may have more questions if we get them in advance versus post, is all I'm saying.
Yep. That sounds great. As soon as I have them, I'll send
It
it over
does
to
sound great.
you. Sounds fantastic.
All right. On to item M, change order.
Ending on change order.
Well, far right one. Far right one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Typically, we have change orders on consent. They're often pulled for questions, so I think this one was moved down to new business. I do have, it's generally the information in your packet regurgitated. There might be a little bit more info in this. I can run through them quickly. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt on any part of it. I think we're all familiar with the project itself. It's West French Lake Road down in the southwest part of the city, identified as red in the figure here. Contract 1 is being completed by the city. Contract 2 was designed by the city, but is actually being constructed with the Graco improvements, which run continue north up to all the way out to Brockton through the green area. So the project info, this is construction dollars and construction contract. The original contract was for about $4.2 million. There was a previous change order for about $93,000. That was for some additional storm sewer work that was needed to, I'll say, clean up the area and mesh the cube's development with the city's development. Both of them were designing, guessing what the other one might look like. And when we put them together, it didn't look great, so we cleaned it up with some storm sewer. The proposed change order is for a total of $43,874. I'll go through that in a little more detail. With these two combined, making the revised contract at about $4.37 million. So this change order number 2 includes 6 different items, if you will, that are being paid to the contractor for compensation. Items 1 through 3 are all related. They include the removal, protection, and relocation of small utilities, basically a phone line that ran along length of the project, and then some utility poles that had to be modified and relocated to allow the work to continue. The cause of this was that there was delays in the small utilities schedules, and they weren't out there to get their facilities out of the way for our contractor to proceed under the schedule that was laid out. The alternative in this situation would have been to stop work, which we can do until the utilities complete their relocations, at which case we would resume. But a consequence of that is that you pay downtime for crews. About the lowest cost I've seen is maybe $800 to $1,000 an hour, can often range more to the $1,500, $1,600 an hour for the crews to sit around and wait. And then if it's for any extended period, they pull off-site, and then you pay for the mobilization both off-site and then back on-site, and you have the project delays in it. So instead, we directed them to go ahead and relocate the facilities to allow that work to continue. Items 4 and 5, these are also related to the same cause, if you will, different activities. There was some additional detour signage needed and then some additional hauling costs for the contractor due to a road closure that was allowed for the Graco improvements to the north of this project. Our contractor bid with the assumption there would be continued access to the north and using 124th out to Brockton Lane. Graco came forward and said that doesn't work with our schedule. We need to close the road now. So it was decided that we would do that for all of the projects as a whole to come together in a more timely fashion. That would be allowed at the cost of our contractor and actually the Capital Partners contractor as well, needing to take a much longer detour route. I do have a figure to show what I'm referring to here. So the additional costs associated with the signage and the additional haul route expenses was about $23,500. Again, the alternative would have been to prohibit the closure and not allow Graco to proceed with their project, which would have then delayed their project as well as the city infrastructure improvements that are being constructed to the north. So just a reference, the green is the route that was being taken by the contractor out the north end, and the blue is what they were forced to take with that closure. So they had to go out to Fernbrook down to 81 and then backtrack back to the interchange. And then item 6 had to do, this was a smaller item, a little bit of a unique situation. There was a resident on the project that asked for a relocation of his driveway, if you will. He wanted it moved to a different area. We actually agreed and thought it was a great idea, but it required the removal of 2 trees, so we didn't offer it until he did. He actually took the trees down himself, which was a further savings to the city. But he asked for additional material to support the driveway through the winter and then towards construction. We did add it as a change order. To be honest, we normally would have just paid this under the item for Class 5 aggregate. However, that cost, because there is labor involved with that for the placement and the compacting of it, it would have cost more to pay it under that. So we peeled it out, put it in the change order, so we were paying the materials only. To further save the city money, the resident actually placed and compacted the material himself. He preferred it that way. So this was for the material costs only. I think there was two truckloads brought out to a site, if I remember right. And again, the alternative would have been to force the driveway to be in the same location, in which case this wouldn't have been needed. However, it was a request of the property owner, and I think you'll see from the figure here, the existing driveway, I took off an old aerial. These are approximate, but the orange on the left is where it was existing, and we had planned to reinstall the new and replace it. And he requested that it be moved over to the location in the red, which actually I think there's some safety benefits to this as well, as it pulls him a little bit out of the intersection. And just given the intended use or the expected use of this roadway, the predominant traffic is going to be west and south. The east leg will be relatively quiet, if you will, out of the 3. So I think just his access in and out, he does have a lot of landscaping vehicles that come and go daily. We think this is actually good for safety purposes as well, so we were supportive of the move.
So my question on that one, Jason, was around, I mean, I guess conceptually, he's getting something out of it that we didn't promise in the original plan, but, they start with that this project should have been completed last fall, and it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so things that had to be done over the course of the winter, I have less sympathy for the contractor related to that, because if they'd finished the work, we wouldn't have had those issues. But I also feel like we had a commitment to keep these residents whole during that time, and so yeah. I don't know that, it just doesn't sound right to me that the contractor gets to charge for essentially doing that.
Yeah. No, understood. And in your packet, I think it calls this out just as like a maintenance to keep the driveway over the winter. Now, had it been in the original location and gone as planned, there wouldn't have been any additional material needed, or less, I would say less additional material. In which case, and that's how all of these other ones were maintained, is the contractor used on-site materials that were suitable for ramping temporary driveways, because they were existing driveways, just kind of beefing them up, if you will, to continue use. This was a whole new one which required additional material placed. Does that help?
I still come to the
Not
same
much.
conclusion.
Okay, all right. Had it been in the same location, we wouldn't have needed so much additional material. Maybe I'll state it that way, so. Yeah, it was viewed, it was reviewed with Public Works. We looked at it, we thought this was a fair way to get probably a better product that they wanted and directed the contractor
Yeah,
to.
no, it
to
seems
haul
like the
material
right
in.
solution. I don't disagree with that at all. It just seems to me like we're, I don't know, paying for something that actually should have been included in the scope of work. You know, even if it's changed the definition of a little bit. And $4,600 for a couple of dump trucks full of Class 5 seems generous.
Yeah, and it might have been more. I thought it was only 2 trips, but.
Well, it's only 10% of the change order. We don't need to spend all night on it, I guess.
I have a question on the first two, just
Yep.
so I understand them correctly. So this one, it sounds like whoever was supposed to line up the contractor to come out and locate these things didn't get things lined up properly, like the order of operations out of order, which probably pay this, correct?
This was for, what is it, CenturyLink and Excel were the 2 facilities in this one. I mean, they were involved in the whole project. We send them plans through the design, final plans. They come to the pre-construction meeting. We have utility meetings. They're part of the weekly. They just didn't get out on site and move their stuff.
I mean, they were behind schedule, as I said, so they must have been really off of schedule. So who on a project like this, I'm just curious, who's responsible for overseeing and lining up the schedules of all these people to be there? Is it the city's responsibility? Is it the...
To make them aware of the project and coordinate.
And what day they're supposed to be there?
Not to that level.
So whose level is
of
that?
The project, it's up to them. I mean, it's the contractor ultimately. It's our contractor that's responsible to do the coordination and have them out there. But our contractor also doesn't have any authority over them to direct crews.
So he's
There's
responsible for
no
lining everything up, but we're
there's-
responsible if he does a bad job with it?
Not that either, because neither one of us have a contractual agreement with them. The only leverage the city has is they are there by permit within your right of way.
I'm not saying anyone's got any leverage over Excel.
What you said is accurate.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is the contractor responsible for saying this person is supposed to be here Monday, they're supposed to be here Tuesday, it's supposed to happen Wednesday?
No.
And that who is responsible for making sure that?
They're not responsible to make sure they're there. They're responsible to make sure they're aware of the schedule and to coordinate with them to get the work done.
So they.
But
So
they
my
don't
question
have
is,
again, there's no contractual relationship. So
Yep.
our contractor cannot force Excel.
So if
either
they
that's
call
done.
Excel and says Excel is supposed to be there Tuesday, and they say, yep, we'll be there, and the Excel doesn't show, why aren't they charging Excel the money, not us, when Excel's the one who didn't show up on time?
Because Excel wouldn't pay them, so we have to pay them to continue the
Ding,
work.
ding, ding.
I mean,
Yep.
that's the truth. They won't pay
In
them,
the
so we
end-
have to pay them to keep the
In
work
in
done.
the
here.
end, we get the short.
Yeah,
It always happens.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't our responsibility as a city to line these up, and maybe, I don't know how often this happens, but if we're saving tens of thousands of dollars of a project, it makes sense to have someone in the city who is going to manage all that and do it, so that way we don't pay this. We pay someone the time, but the net it might end out, we have to look at how much we're paying on all these, but I just, because this is changed order 2, and I think the first, or the next one, whichever one you're on,
Yep.
this seems like the same thing.
Change order 2, but it's A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, but so 4 and 5 here, right? Like
Yep.
these are again, someone didn't
Someone
communicate with
didn't
someone
do the
else.
deal.
Both of these to me seem like a lack of poor communication amongst individuals.
This one, I don't know if I'd lump in that category. The first one, absolutely. Well, I think it's a lack of responsiveness, because I could show you mountains of correspondences we've had with the utilities, identifying timelines and other. This one was more, Graco came to the city and said, hey, we need to start our project. We're not going to be able to finish if you force us to keep the road open. We had a written agreement with them that the road would be maintained throughout the life of our project. We had milestones until an alternate route is constructed, which it was not. It was either Dayton Parkway, the Troy Lane extension, or 121st. None of those were completed. So we told Graco, you can't close the roadway until we're done with ours, at which point you can remove the road and we will vacate the easement because we don't need the road anymore. And they came and said that won't work with us. So it was reviewed at a city level, or with staff, and it was reviewed, and it was agreed that, okay, that's too big of a consequence, too big of a project to set a major delay in. What are our alternatives? So it was decided that we'll allow the closure and we'll reroute the traffic from the 2 projects, being the city project and Capital Partners, on this alternate route. There's also some other risk in there with some roadways that probably aren't built for this, so we actually got some escrow dollars from Graco to allow this and said, we don't want to reroute because it'll beat up our road, we'll probably have to do repairs. They said, how about we give you an escrow for repairs if needed, and it did. So we have that in place.
And so do we need to do any repairs?
It still needs to be evaluated.
How much was it?
Was it?
That'll be
remember
change
Zach,
order number
was it-
3.
Was it 50 or
was
did it was
$50,000.
Okay.
So it more than covers this cost.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So if there happen to be no road repairs needed, do we get to keep the money either way, or offset it against this
That
23,000?
I don't know the terms of it.
I'd have to talk to Greg Cole.
Okay. So we'll find $50,000 of issues, I'm sure, given all that extra weight in the roads. Marty's shaking his head yes, which is why I feel confident.
Well, the
saying
road's
that.
already rough, so it was bad, a part of it.
It would be a better option for us to use the money than to not.
Okay.
Based on the negotiation that we did.
Okay. I'm good.
This relates to the existing 117th?
Yeah, it's actually the area I used a figure that I had for other purposes. It's that blue area, it's about 0.4 miles.
Yeah, that's in pretty tough shape.
It's in rough shape, especially to the west of East French Lake Road. That part's especially rough. To be honest, it didn't deteriorate as much as I expected with our hauling. So our contractor hauled all of the gravel and all of the pavement on there, and then Capital Partners also did some hauling there. The other good news is we thought that all of the concrete loads from Capital Partners would be coming this route. I just learned today, or confirmed today, that they'll actually be accessing from Brockton. So that will be less wear and tear on there, which is good news.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my additional
So
questions.
that one's a net positive if we follow through.
That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to get about. Okay.
Yes.
We'll see.
All this work's already done, correct?
In the change order, yes.
Yeah,
it is.
okay.
Yeah.
In the end, the bill is never cheaper, it's always more money. Never.
I have to put together
in
a
my
table
10
for
years,
you.
it'll never happen.
I'll
think it has.
I'll put a table together for you. Because we don't
I'd
pay
be
for
shocked.
work that's not done.
Let's get the sidewalk and intersection stuff done, taken care of first.
Yep.
Or crosswalk. I'm less worried about that.
So that's all I had, other than the recommendation to approve.
Okay, you need a motion.
I'll reluctantly motion. It's got to be done. I'll reluctantly
Yep.
motion.
Any second?
I'll second it.
Any more
To
discussion?
me, it should be bid for the original amount of money, and that's just, the contractor eats it.
Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Nay.
against, okay, 3-1.
Nay?
Hey,
All right,
It's just
item,
carelessness on the contractor's part, that's all it is.
item N.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I don't have a presentation for this one, as it was pretty straightforward, and we've already approved the final plat previously. It essentially cut the lots in half, and therefore the development agreement essentially in half as well. So it's just a revised final plat and a revised development agreement to do 41 lots instead of the original 81 that were approved back in November of 2022. So if there's any questions for staff on this one.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I understand what's happening, so they're reducing the number of lots in the previously approved.
They took their sign down too. The big honking
Yeah.
billboard sign they had.
Oh, darn.
Right. So I guess, you know, my question is around by this change of scope, you know, is there any detriment to the city's side of this developer's agreement by changing this?
No, I mean, the fees we're still, like, when they would go forward with the other 40 lots, we would have the same amount than we had with the development agreement previously, and the one connection we don't get by having the full 81 lots, which is the sanitary sewer connection to the well head treatment plant, right? We're doing with this phase anyways. We requested that as part of it, and it'll be an agreement we work out with the developers so that we can complete that as scheduled from the city side for that. And that was the one piece that was different by reducing the number of lots. But otherwise, all the fees are the same. And then just by platting it now, instead of back in 2022, they have to pay the 2023 fee schedule rate. So some of the fees actually go up a little bit because our rates went up a little bit for some of those charges.
So is there additional credit given then for extending that line that they don't need, but we want at this point?
I mean,
for the
there's
wheelhouse?
credits in there, yeah, listed in the development agreement based on what their fees were, and then some of the credits for oversizing, and then the credits for putting in additional. So there are a couple credits in there listed for the water and sewer facilities that will then carry over to phase. This would be then the third edition, I guess, for the next 40 lots. And we would apply that credit to that. They're listed in there. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they were around 100,000-ish for sewer and water each.
Yeah, I guess I saw those. I'm just trying to work it through in my head. So we're going to credit them for doing work that would have been included in the larger Plat.
Right, and the work for the
So we're
sanitary
going to
sewer
credit
to
because
extend.
we want that work done now, but do we ever recover that in the second?
Well, we haven't actually got a number for that extension yet, because that was a discussion and a condition of this, but it hasn't actually been bid with the. So we're still in discussions. Jason will work with the with the developer and the contractor, the ultimate one who responds to the bid, which I assume would be Wiedema, to work on what those improvements would be, and then work out an agreement separate from the development agreement, because we kept the development agreement for just the portion that's actually on the area they're platting, which is the bounds of the 41 lots. The sanitary sewer extension would go outside of the area they're platting at this point, so we're keeping that as a separate agreement to make things clean between the two.
Jason, do you want to go in more detail about it? I think
Just to clarify, they're not being credited for anything that they would have done anyway. So it was mentioned, so I guess to back up, we have a service that we were planning to connect to the line that would be extended with the original proposed improvements. That part was removed, so now we don't have an extension to connect to. So we asked them to construct that now, that extension now, so we can connect in. They're not receiving any credits for that extension. They're just building it early, if you will.
Okay.
So
they are not getting any credits for the thing that's in their ground that they would have to put in no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
They would only get credits for the extension that goes from that
Yeah.
pipe
I guess
over
that
to our
was
wellhead
that was
treatment
my
plant.
question, is that
Yes.
piece isn't lost because of this?
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
no,
moving around
it's just they put it in already. They put it in early for us, basically. Apparently, it's a deep sewer, so it's the first time they have to put it anyways if they were to redo the project, no matter what. So we're not giving them any credits for doing it early. They're just asking them to put it in early based on the fact that we need it.
So the credits are really just based on the upsizing of some things that
Correct.
we've asked for.
Yeah,
There's a very large, very deep line on the south that they're getting the credit for the upsizing over depth of that. So.
Okay.
We had two questions. One is, there's a large number of paths that have already been graded and laid out. Will they be finishing those as part of this?
Within the project area, those pads did you say pads or paths?
Paths.
Oh, sorry. If they're within the Plat boundary, which is the south part, I'll be honest, I don't remember what was in there for.
Does that include the parking lot and the path down to the pickleball court?
No, that was actually the part removed in the north, I think, or maybe that was even part of the first edition, but.
Because they've gone and they've graded all of that, like it's all ready for pathing.
The rough grading is done for a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the part where they come in and actually construct the infrastructure to go with it. They do all the mass
Yep.
grading at once just for cost benefit.
Yeah, well, because I think the problem is that pickleball court is a city pickleball court, and there's no public parking to access that. And I've received multiple emails, people asking about the Hayden Hills pickleball court, and River Hills is one of the other ones that has it, and that parking is in RiverWalk and connects down to it. And so if they're not completing that path, it makes it, from a parking arrangement, there's no other parking for that park anywhere unless you park at Cloquet Overlook and walk all the way down, under and around to go play pickleball. And so I could see people cutting through residences' yards to get to that because it's easier to go from the street straight back without that path being completed. So I do have some concerns if we're not going to require them to complete the pathing, that A, is already graded, and B, provides public access to public parks easier, and what we as a city were expecting to get that.
Yeah.
Great question. It was part of phase one, Bill Ramsey RG development. It was paved today.
Perfect.
All the trails within phase one, around the future clubhouse, all the way back to the parkway. The parkway was finished paving today.
I think you use that pickleball court, don't you?
Every day at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
I cut downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it's today we'll go to another facility, let the oil dry, Everything was paid today.
Perfect, thank you. My other question is, it was advertised that there'd be a pool house there. Will that still be completed as expected and won't be delayed?
Permits are in for the
Okay.
city. It'll be late construction, just get the building up and going. Maybe the foundation of the pool will be done and be completed in 2024.
Perfect, I'm good then. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming up and answering those questions.
Welcome.
Thank you. Are we good?
I'm good if you don't have any other
All right.
questions, yeah.
Anybody else got any questions? Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All set.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 4-0. All right, now we are on to closed session. Should I be reading this now?
Yes, please.
Pursuant Minnesota statutes 13D05 subdivision 3C3 to discuss the development of terms for the acquisition of property rights involving PID numbers 31-120-22-13-0010.
Can you stop it, Chris?
back in. And unless there is any objection, we will be adjourned.
So,
We're adjourned.
well done, Chris. Thank you.